So Tom, I wanted to ask you about indoor and about, specifically your time at Dartmouth. I actually got to see, I aged out in 95 and I actually taught an indoor group that went to WGI in 99. So I saw you guys in 99. And what's interesting is that even from back then, you guys have always had a really strong, identifiable, what I would call identity, you know? And indoor is obviously different because it's much more you, like you are producing a greater percentage of the creative content. Something I noticed about Dartmouth that's been consistent through the years is that you guys always create a world and immerse yourselves and sort of give yourself fully to that world and inhabiting a character. And not to say that other groups don't do that, but it's a really strong part of what you guys do. And I'm actually really curious because the playing, I can see it, the playing, I can see that it's you, but that aspect was something that stuck out to me. And I wanted to ask you about that. Where does that come from? Seems intentional. I don't know, but.
Well, I think it comes from Darcy. I don't know if you guys know Darcy. Yeah, so Darcy is my ex, and she's actually part of the corps at Cadets. I just want to say too, very fortunate to have been married to her and I've been blessed to have my two kids. And when we decided that we weren't going to be together and we're going to move on, we said we're going to do this the right way. We're going to still work together as a family. We're going to still work together, and we're going to show our own kids that it's cool. We could make this work, but we got each other's back. And so we still work together. Tonight I have indoor practice and she's going to run, the movement part of it. Yeah. And so I brought her onto the Cadets because I just think she has a brilliance. She's smart and she's brilliant with just big picture stuff. And most everything we've done from a conceptual standpoint has been her idea. Or she'll say something that'll spark me. So, for instance, she's always wanted to do something which is kind of, with these big wigs that we did, like the Mozart kind of wigs and all that. So she had planned years before we did it. She's like, all right, I think this would be really cool. And then it was the costume. So we had a meeting and she says, well, this is what I want it to look like. Like that would be really cool. So then from that, we went to, we did some work and figured out we'd base it off of Marie Antoinette. So 2014. That was my oldest son. That was his senior year. And then so from that, she'll say, all right, so this beginning 2.5 minutes should be a ballroom. Should be in a ballroom. I go, okay. So what I do is I go find music that sounds like we're in a ballroom. And then she'll say, all right, well, the drum line can kind of do this and we can do that. Good. So then what I do is I write everything. I don't orchestrate the pit stuff anymore, but I write everything out. And then, I'll write obviously the drum stuff. And then I'll have my new guy now is Brandon Carita. He writes for me at the Cadets too. He's only 26 years old. This guy is like brilliant. Does all the sound for Cadets, does all the sound for me at Dartmouth, and is my new Neil. He's attached to me, right? So anyway, so I put it all together, and then I got to go back to her and say, all right, does this sound what you see? Okay, cool. Then I sit down and I write pages of notes for Jeff, and I say to Darcy, I'm like, all right, is this? Yep, okay, let's go to the next section. So that process, I'm the grunt. I'm the one behind the scenes connecting and writing and thinking of this and how that goes and okay. And, Jeff dots, brings the stuff together, and Darcy's it's got to look like this. All right. It's got to seem like this. And she's not afraid. Speaking of aggressive, she's not afraid. She's like, yeah, that section sucks. We need to get rid of that. But I always tell people, I think she's like the indoor secret weapon. because she brings an elegance and a smartness to what we do that makes us who we are. You know, I'm the one that kind of brings. I guess I'm the producer and the director, right? And she's kind of the whatever you want to, I mean, I call her. She's the program coordinator. She has a dance background, so any of the movement that we do, even though she might not do the movement, has to go through her. So she's like, yeah, we're not doing drumline movement here. This has got to be appropriate for what we're doing. So yeah, I've been very, very fortunate to have, and we started doing that once we got married in 93. So 93, and I want to give props to myself on this. So up until 2005, I wrote everything: the battery, the pit, and the drill. Everything.
For Dartmouth.
Indoor. Yeah.
Wow.
Now, and then eventually.
That's a lot. That's a big.
Oh yeah. Well, I tell you, there were years. The first year we went to WGI, we came back and we won. I was a mess because it was like it was like Darcy and I. Right? Now I did hire this other guy, Jamie Eckert, who was one of my best friends. He was a cadet pit tech, and he moved up here and all that. So I had Jamie there, but that was it. And so after we came back in 98, I said to Darcy, I'm like, I can't do this again. I think I'm gonna have to find another job. Because I'm teching everything. I'm writing, I'm having subsectionals every day. So the quads run Monday, basses were Tuesday, everyone Wednesday night, snares Thursday, everyone Saturday. I mean, I think looking back now, I go, it was worth it. But man, the mental strain. And after 99, we won again. I'm like, I got to I actually started looking for another job. Yeah, because it was just, I was doing the core at the highest level. Alan was 3, 4, 5 years old. So when the Aunsgt when they went out, we went to indoor practice. We brought Alan's, tricycle in the gym. He's playing, we had dancers. We still have dancers, right, in the group. So Darcy, all right, Samantha, go over there and play with Alan you're not in this set, so go play with Alan for about 15. So, but, then eventually I kind of got smart and I hired some other people to, I guess to see the forest from the trees or something. I don't know. I don't explain it. Now it's like, I'm still in there. I'm still in the trenches. I always will be in the trenches. I think that's how I am. Once I start going, I go. I tell the guys, if you want to say something, you better just say it because I'm not going to ask you. I'm just going to go. So hop in there. If you got something to say, just say, hey, Tom, yeah, so it's kind of, I got to give props to Darcy. It's, I just think she's brilliant. I really do. I think she's got a lot of great things. Now you didn't see it. I brought her on 2019, and you didn't really see it because again, we didn't have an infrastructure. And again, I don't like to throw instructors under the bus, but our visual package was just we just couldn't get it together. It was just a mess. It's like, you're in a mess and you have to live in the mess all year. No, we're not going to clean this up until next year. So it was one of those. But I just think she's brilliant. I think she's got a lot to offer, the activity and all that. So yeah, so that I think what you see there is her personality kind of coming through and what she can bring to Dartmouth.
One thing I wanted to ask you, no, we're going back to the drum corps thing. 93, you guys won everything. Percussion wise, somebody said if you were to average the drumline scores from finals, prelims, semis, and finals, Cadets would have won high percussion. Star ends up winning percussion finals night, and they win the night, and they win the trophy. Close your ears for this one, George.
Yeah.
94.
But the other way.
They go to the average. They go to the averaging.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And it was only 2 nights.
So yeah, it was only 2 nights because quarters got rained out. So semis, if we average the score semis and finals, George and the Blue Devils end up winning high percussion. But what a lot of people don't realize is Cadets actually won drums on the night. Mm-hmm. So you kind of got, I don't know, I hate to use this word because I'm not cheapening anything, but George, in a way, you kind of got screwed both years based on the judging style. Do you prefer the average scores over the 3 nights, or do you prefer winner take all on?
I prefer winner take all, because here's what happens is, you know, in 2000, I'll just use us in 2003. We had gone in. I mean, I have to look at the recap, but we were up by 6/10 the first night. So we already figured out, like, okay, we had this judge, I think it was Glenn Fugit. All right, he's either going to have us up, and if we're down, it's going to be a little bit, but we're still going to be up. So after prelims was over, we were up. We would have, I think Neil figured it out, like, we could have come in third that on finals night and still would have won drums after the prelims final or semifinals and prelims thing. Right. So I just think it's, you know, the activity has always been about the performance of the night. Right. It's the whole, they started that in like the 90s. It's like anything could happen and it's the performance of the night. But then, and you know, I'm gonna blame Hopkins on this. All that stuff that happened in the early, like 93, that was George bringing a proposal. I don't remember why. So he brings this proposal, and yeah, we win 2 nights, and then we lose finals, and we lose the high. Right. The next night, the next year, it's we win the end, but it's, you know, and here's I think it was 93 was the night. So, and then so I gave him so much crap that the next year he switched it and it went back to the average. Because that's what it was. 92 was the first year we did the average. 92 Cavaliers won all the nights, but you know, but then I still have, I'm not upset, but it's like, you know, you look at, so 95 we were second, right, in drums. 96 we were second in drums, and we won one of the nights. So I think we won maybe quarterfinals or something, or maybe prelims, and then we lost. So we were second. 97 overall, 97 overall. The average would have been we were second. 98, we won one of the nights. The average, we were second. 2000, right? We won one of the nights. We won prelims. Cavaliers won quarterfinals, and then Cavaliers won. So we were second. So yeah, I got a lot of seconds in my pocket here.
You know, along those lines, I wanted to ask you, you know, because judging has gone through, you know, a number of different iterations to try to get it right. And obviously, like most recently with percussion, like, you know, getting the judge off the field. If it were up to you, I mean, and because obviously you're a really competitive guy, that's a big part of what drives you. And I know, I can only imagine what it's like having you in critique some nights. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. But if it were up to you, I mean, because it is an imperfect science, right? Are we in a good place with regards to how we're judging things? Are there other possibilities that may make it better, but you know, or at least more accurate, fair, representative, whatever you want to call it? Where do you think we are with all of that?
Yeah, so I think, you know, obviously I've thought a lot about this, and I've one thing I do want to say though, I remember I think it was 87 maybe, and Tom Float said to me, we were at the DCI convention, you know, and we were sitting in the room with Charlie Poole and the whole thing, and you know, he had a lot to say about what had just happened, you know, and I mean, he's teaching the Blue Devils, and you know, we just got an 87, and he wants to know, or in 87 we got a perfect score, so he wants to know like why and all this. So he had a lot to say, and so we were walking out, and you know, I looked at him. He goes, "Hey man, squeaky wheel gets the grease." Walked away. And I always remember that. And so, yeah, I'm not. I'm not brutal in a critique, but here's the thing. If my kids, and I know the time I put into it, and I know the time that the amount of time and the effort my kids put into it. So if you don't come and bring your A game, you're in trouble. If you come and you bring your A game, and I'm good with it. But if you come in and you're just like, you think it's so cool to judge and you're like, whatever. And, because you have some judges like that, not just in DCI, but band and whatever, you're going to be in trouble with me.
Yep.
But if you're giving, like Jeff Prospery, every tape he gives me and every time he adjudicates, it's 110%. And I can have a debate and a discussion. It's all cool. But it's when you don't, because my kids work too hard. I've worked too hard. My staff, it's like, come on, man, you got to go. You have to at least crawl to the show. You have to do something, right? I mean, you can't just like, oh yeah, well, here's a number. That gets me upset. So I guess getting back to where we're at, I still think that drum corps is still the utopia for marching percussion. I really do. When it comes to the battery and the front ensemble and all that and what they do. And, the indoor independent stuff and all that, it's awesome. But I think just like a musical package, I still think it's the drum corps stuff. I think we're missing a judge that's not able to give us what we do. And that is a guy upstairs. Like when I'm writing stuff, I'm writing to the music. I'm kind of writing up here. I'm not necessarily writing for the, the guy on the field. Like you think about that, but it's big picture. We don't really have anyone that's doing that and rewarding that. Having the guy off the field, I thought it was going to be bad. I was kind of for it after it happened because we had to write differently. So we moved the drum line to the judge. A lot of groups did that. When you talk to drill writers, they did that. So that doesn't bother me anymore. It did when it was happening. I just think we're missing someone upstairs to reward the package, the percussion package. Can you do it in ensemble? Yeah, but I don't think you can do it if you have a brass guy. Can you do it in effect? Yeah, but I don't know if you can really do the detail. I mean, the nitty gritty the subtleties and the nitty gritty that we all put into the writing front to back, is just not being talked about and not rewarded. I don't know if it'll come back because I think it's maybe a financial thing, but I'd like to see someone just focus on, because here's the thing. When it comes to marching percussion, like I said, I think drum corps is it. When it comes to brass playing, and this is no knock on brass, but there's some great wind ensembles out there. There's some great brass bands out there. Like, but marching percussion, to me, that is, and I know this is coming from a drum dude, but that kind of separates what's going on in other activities. I mean, really, you go to Bands of America, I mean, there's some awesome stuff. Maybe not as physical, but man, just the drumming is something that is for decades, 5 decades, to me has separated drum corps from other activities. But it's just, I guess it ticks me off a little bit that we don't reward that, I guess, especially with someone upstairs. Having the guy off the field, like I said, wasn't as bad as I thought. But, I guess we'll see now in the situation we're in. Who knows, moving forward, what, how this is all going to look after this next summer.
Yeah. So you'd want to see 2 judges, one downstairs and one upstairs, you think?
Yeah, and I think if you talk to anyone, talk to Paul, you talk to Scott, who's ever doing it right now, they would think the same thing, because it just, how can you expect one guy in the field to pick up all the work that we've put in and the kids have put in? You can't, whether he's running around the field or he's in the front, you can't do that. So, but again, I don't know if that will change down the road. So I wish it would.
You're talking about judges' critique. and it kind of jogged my memory a little bit. I'd read something, probably on the Facebook page, about in '91.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
That a judge had kind of slammed. Yeah. You know, you already know what I'm going to say. Yeah, a judge had slammed you guys for the opener for why are you guys playing? Why are you having one guy keeping taps while you guys are playing? And you had to take a cassette tape and show him, hey, this is how it is on the original.
Yeah, it was it's a California guy. Anyway, I can't remember his name, and I wouldn't say it anyway. But anyway, he was upstairs and he was doing, I guess he was doing ensemble percussion or something. And so, you know, minimalistic music is based off repetitive patterns, right? And a lot of the John Adams stuff has that that wood block. You know, that's, I mean, if you look at the score though, it's like, you know, it's all over the place with time signatures. But so, you know, it was okay if he said it one time, but he couldn't get off it. It was just like on and on and on and on through the whole piece. And then he was almost disgusted at the end. He's like, well, you guys are the cadets, and I can't believe you're using a timekeeper out there, something like that. I'm like, and my thing was like, I thought it was brilliant, because what I did is it started in the pit and it moved around. I thought that was brilliant. Right. And so I was kind of pissed off because he didn't pick that up. And the first thing I said, okay, so we're the cadets. We've won 5 championships in the last, whatever it was, 7 years, right? And really, you think we'd come out and do that like that? So I brought in, it was a boombox. It was huge. And put the tape in, the original cassette tape. It was like, da-dun, 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 da-dun. And I was like, I'm sure I swore. I don't swear a lot, but man, you get me cranking. It's like, you know, I'm a Capricorn, so I get pretty intense. And I kind of went in on them. And one of the judge, and Mark Sylvester was getting into it with one of the visual guys too. And so we got kicked out of critique.
That's awesome. See, now these are the stories that I like hearing, man.
Mm-hmm.
These behind the scenes, you know, going to battle for your group, you know.
Well, hey, listen, being old and stuff, I tell my kids at school, I got tons of stories, so just be careful. So I'll tell you one here. So in 2003, we didn't win a drum show. Now 2003, we won drums. We didn't win a drum show until Allentown. We went to Allentown in the end of June, and I had to fly home. And this drum judge, who was a DCA judge, told my techs that had gone in that it's the worst cadet line he's ever seen.
Oh man!
Right. So yeah,
that's
and
crazy.
so what people don't understand is it was a physical show. We had we started with 11 snares. We ended up with 9. And we had a lot. The season was Swiss cheese with just injuries. It's just one of those. Like, and here's the thing: like, once you get injured, you know, it's hard. It's hard to kind of, you know, kids out, kids in. You know, if you get through spring training and you haven't had injuries, and then you have one, it's easier to get back in. You have it in the start of spring training. It's hard ever to get back in. So we had 11 snares at the beginning of spring training. We had to let a couple kids go. They just could never get back in there. So we had to make a decision and, you know, get down to our numbers. But so anyway, we struggled all season. But in the back of my mind, I go, man, this is a veteran line. This is a good line. This is great stuff. This is top. This is, and you know, Neil and I is like, man, this could be one of the better ones, right? So we go to Westchester. Mark Thurston, right? He's judging. So Vanguard's there. So I fly in, I go down, and I see us, and I'm like, that's pretty good. I was like, we got everyone in. I see Vanguard, and I went, okay, it's good, right? It's, man, 2 great lines there, but I'm like, okay, we should be up by at least a 10th or 2. I mean, I just thought there was a difference there. Mark had us up. He had Vanguard up 5/10. So I went into critique. And I sat down and I listened to his tape, and I said, Mark, I said, you didn't really get out there. And he goes, well, you know, this is my first time judging. I said, well, these kids deserve, you know, here it is. I didn't think he brought his A game. Like, I would rather him get out there and get run over than I know at least he's working. Right. So
Right.
And then I kind of said, I mean, I saw both groups, and I was like, I think we played pretty good. And I said, if we didn't, I'm fine with that, but I want to hear it on the tape. I want to hear, don't work at it and then you have us down. If it's there and we're down, hey, it's all good. It's all good. So, Mark and I are, we're on the steering committee for WGI, and, he's the director of WGI. And he doesn't really tell it the way I tell it. He goes, man, you were like really intense. I'm like, well, good. I should be. So the next day, it was Saturday, Allentown, and we're at Westchester, and drumline's out on the field. I told George, I said, I want the field. I brought the guys, and I said, all right, this is it. This is it. What are we going to do? We have Allentown, and we're going down to Orlando. We got one show here. We've struggled all year. We got the whole drum line in. You guys are great players. This is a great show. What are we going to do? They're like, yeah, let's do this. Man, the rehearsal was like out of control intense. These kids were like fired up. So we go to Allentown that night, and Jeff Prospery's in. So, and Jeff's a pretty good guy. He'll get in there and he'll tell it how it is. So we went from 5/10 down the night before to 5/10 up. Oh, Vanguard. Mm-hmm. And that was it. We went into, quarterfinals, 6/10, and boom. But that was one of those years, like, we didn't win we were at the Allentown show. We were last in drums out of 7 corps. Yeah. Jeez. Like the Glassmen and whoever else was in that show.
Was 2003 one of those years that, like the past, that Cadets, they make that push at the last?
Yeah, especially for the percussion. And I just knew we were good. We had, it was a veteran line, and I loved that music, the Fanfare and Allegro and Malagueña and, Rocky Point. And, like writing Rocky Point was kind of cool because I wanted to do it my way. Not the way we did it. So it was kind of cool to be able to do that. But yeah, I loved everything we did. And we actually played, so it was My Favorite Things. So I don't know if you know this, being a Blue Devil guy, but we played the accent, the tap exercise from when Vern was in the Blue Devils.
Yeah. Robbie Bucks. I had heard that, and I've been scouring the internet to see if there's any recording of that, because I'd love to hear, or just even see Cadets play Robbie Bucks. Yeah, that was their 62nd that year.
No way.
Because Vern was on staff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay.
So the whole show was our favorite things. And so, I think it was like, right, well, obviously there's a lot of great Blue Devil stuff. So Vern's like, hey, man, let's play Robbie Bucks. I'm like, cool. So we did that.
Did you even play it with the Blue Devils tag there at the end of the roll?
I don't remember.
Yeah, in fact, Robbie Bucks, that's our intro music for the podcast.
Oh, really?
Because I love that exercise so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there was, there was a lot of that year. There was a lot of cool stuff. Like we did Fanfare and Allegro, and I love when Vanguard did it, but we did sections that they didn't do, which was really cool. And I loved, that show was written for the drumline. There was a lot of cool stuff in that, and I just enjoyed writing that. Like it was fun. Again, a veteran snare line. So there were 7 dudes. We finished with 9. So there were 7 vets in that snare line. And I would say 3 or 4 quad players out of 5. And here's another funny story. So we always had injuries. And some years we had 3 quads. I don't know if you remember, like 99, we had 3 quads, 88. So we'd always think, let's have 5, and then we're down to 4. Well, then it was like, all right, there was like one year, like 99, we had 5 and went up with 3. So 2000, we had 5 and up with 4. So, it was George's thing. He's like, I said, we have 6 dudes. He's like, all right, well, we'll end up with 4 or 5. Every year, 2002 and 2006, the one with 6 quads, never had an injury. Had 6 quads. It's when we went with 5 or 4 that we got an injury with it. Bill Bachman marched 94 with this Jeremy Gill, and after the Bayonne show, they both had hernias. They had to go home, and I'm like, really? They came back. They both came back, and finished out the season. I'm not sure what the time frame was, but I'm thinking hernia, we're ending up with 2 quads. You know, we did a lot of that year with 2 dudes, but eventually they came back and you know, got in there. But it was like, you know, I got a hernia. Oh, guess what? I have a hernia too. I'm like, oh, good, I have a hernia.
Yeah, you know, Jareed was telling us a story in '90, I guess. Unless it was a big show, they would only go 4 bases because there was one of the bass drummers had a bad
Yeah,
back
his
or
hip.
something
It
like
was
that.
well, his name. I don't know what his real name was, but Hannum, when he taught and we taught together, he always kind of had different names. He called me T-Bone, right? And so, you know, I kind of picked that up. So, oh, his name was Craig. I'm sorry. So his real name in the bottom base was Craig in '90. But for whatever reason, I kept calling him Cliff. He's like, my name's Craig. Craig. I said, no, your name's Cliff, because I can't remember Craig. So everyone started calling him Cliff. Almost to the point where I think after the season, he told me, because it was a hip injury, that I don't know if he was just kidding. He was like, yeah, you know, I think my parents were thinking I should change my name to Cliff. Yeah, but he was a workhorse, man. He didn't want to sit down. We had to make him sit down. He's a little dude, and it was I want to say it's a 34 back then. You know, yep.
The era of the big drums, the big bottoms, yeah.
Tom, I wanted to ask you, you know, you've taught a lot of kids, and we've obviously during this conversation, you've talked a lot about, you know, being about the kids, for the kids, and all of that stuff. When you look at the tree of people that you've taught over the years, you have to have, you know, kids both in this activity and outside of it that have grown up and have been probably a real sense of pride for you, in terms of the adults that they've become. Do you have anybody? I mean, it doesn't have to be like your favorite, but do you have people that really stand out to you as being like, it was really special getting to teach that person and getting to see what they've become? Like I said, either in this activity or outside of it.
Yeah, well, it's like I think, like you said, it's it's a lot of kids. So, I mean, I think the first person that comes to mind is Willy Higgins, because Willie and I marched in '84 together. Right, he was 16, I was 21, and then remember I was saying '84 was was a mess. So he didn't come back. He didn't come back in '85, but he saw the drumline at a show in '85, and he came and saw me after the show. And he said, hey, man, I want to come back next year. So he came back in '86. He did '86, '87, '88, '89. And then he was my snare tech. He didn't do a lot in '90 because something with his new job or whatever. But then he started kicking in '91. He was my snare tech up through '98. So, you know, basically 8 years. Fast forward it. So he's an English teacher at Dartmouth, and he's been here 20 years at Dartmouth. Now he taught a little bit with the indoor, but then he had kids. So his oldest was a drum major for Dartmouth, graduated last year, was a cymbal player in the indoor. His youngest played snare as a freshman this past year for the fall, and he's playing, and I moved him back into the bass drum line. My youngest son, Noah, is the snare section. He's the drumline section leader, right? So he's a senior. That age gap between Noah and Cal is the same as Willie and myself. Yeah. And then, so it was just, you know, we have a lot of respect for each other. We still, like for Christmas, you know, we'd go over to, you know, Darcy's. I have to give props to my girlfriend, Julie Massey. She's awesome. And, you know, she gets the whole vibe that we have here with the family and stuff. So, you know, Christmas last year was at Darcy's, you know, with her boyfriend, and Alan came home. Noah was there. Willie with his 2 kids and his wife, Tracy. Tracy actually still teaches the Blue Devils color guard, Tracy Higgins. Yeah. So she's still on staff there. But, you know, it's just, I don't know, a lot of lineage there. It's a lot of years that we kind of worked together, and, you know, we marched, and I don't know. I think just kind of thinking of Willie, because of all that we've kind of been through in those decades. And, you know, like he doesn't really do anything now. He's an English teacher and does a lot for, I think the state, like for MCAS, which is the state exam, like he grades that. And yeah, and he'll go in the summer, he'll travel and do a lot of that kind of stuff. I don't know much about it, where he'll grade state tests and all that. But yeah, so, you know, now he just drops Cal off rehearsal.
I just have a couple things that I want to ask. One of them being, we're talking about 91 a little bit. When the guys from Blue Devils went over there, and we talked about this in previous podcasts, what was it like when they called you and said, "Hey, we want to come over. Is there a spot for us?" Were you like surprised a little bit, or how did that all go down on your end, from your perspective?
I'm not sure how. I don't know if they connected with someone in the Corps office, and then the Corps office, you know, gave them my phone number. And I'm not sure exactly who connected with me, whether it was Mike Stevens or Pete Sapadin. But those guys did show up at a camp, and it was Vern, Mike Stevens, Pete Sapadin, and Kevin Murphy. Yeah, Kevin Murphy. And so, you know, we're East Coast, right? We don't have stands. I didn't even know they made stands for drums. You know, so we're in the room, and, you know, Vern's, you know, this guy's long hair. He's like, "Hey, man," it's like, "We're the quad stands." I'm like, "Quad stands? I didn't know they made quad stands." I said, "We don't got quad stands. You know, you're gonna have to carry the drum the whole camp." And then, you know, after the camp was over, you know, I think, again, I don't remember how it transpired, whether, you know, Pete or Mike Stevens called, but those guys decided to stay. Kevin, they asked him to be the section leader, Blue Devil, so he went back. I'm not sure if Vern went back, but I think it was a culture shock for Vern a little bit, because we were so different, very regimented, very, you know, military, and, you know, and sticks in, sticks down, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so I don't think it was his vibe, like what he was used to, where it was more relaxed. It was pretty intense, you know, but yeah. And, you know, Pete lost, I think, 50 or 60 pounds, he said. You know, but it was cool. I learned, you know, I try to learn from the kids. I try to learn from, like I said, staff, and I remember learning a lot from those guys, because the thing was, they came from Floatland, which was, you know, I was always fascinated with his system and the grid, and man, the kids, those lines always could play great, and what they played was just like, are you kidding me? So, you know, those guys, they always kind of introduced things, and I was like, that's cool, let's do that. You know, I was really open to some stuff, and I think what they learned too was there's a different way of doing it, and it's cool too. Like, even though we're not playing all this hybrid rudiment stuff, it's still kind of cool in what we were doing, you know. And yeah, it was neat. I learned a lot from those guys, and then Mike Stevens became really, I mean, I had a snare, I had a quad tech in and out, Michael Jones, but this was like the first time it was like, all right, here's a quad player, and we need to get quad kids instead of snare players being quad players. So, you know, Mike Stevens we got quad players, you know, like brought guys in, and he set a program up, and the QB, right? Because we had the HP, now we needed the QB. So, you know, Mike Stevens, I learned a lot from him and picked some stuff up in my writing, and yeah. But it was cool having those guys. I learned a lot. It kind of gave me some more, I guess, food for thought as I'm moving forward, teaching and writing and all that stuff. So it's good.
That's cool. And then the last question I really have, and it's not even really my question. It's like I said earlier, I'd reached out to a couple people. The other person I reached out to was Brian Stockard, and he really he wanted me to ask. He says, one thing you should definitely ask Tom Aunsgt is what it was like to write the music for the best drumline in the history of all drumlines, Cadets 2000. I think that's a biased question on his end, right?
Well,
there.
He tried out in '98, and then I'm not sure what happened. I don't know if it was because he's from California, So I don't know if there was something financially that you know, he couldn't make work out. There was a family issue. So then he came back out in 2000, I think his age out year, and then made the line. Yeah, it was a great show, great line. You know, everything there's certain years where you go, everything just kind of falls into place, right? And I don't know, you were talking about like the early 2000s for us with drums and stuff. Like, how did it all work out? You know, I don't know. 2000 was one of those. Like, everything we did was like boom, boom, boom. You know, drumline, the core, the whole thing. People were excited about what we were doing. You know, we were excited. You know, that year was like, let the hair down, like whatever, just let's go do this. Let's do something maybe a little bit different than what we've done in the past. So yeah, it's definitely a great drumline, I think. You know, so I've had, I do want to say this though, I'm proud of this. I've had like 30 some kids that have marched in drum corps from Dartmouth over the years. Yeah, I've kind of counted. And so my tenor section leader that year was Dave Lord, who was in the indoor show in 98 and 99. And he marched 99 cadets and then 2000 and then it aged out. Brandon McNutt, who was in the snare line in 2000, I want to say he did 2 more years after that. Anyway, he's another Dartmouth kid. My son, you know, went to Crown, marched Blue Devils, and had a great experience there and all that. So I'm like kind of a proud papa when kids, you know, I start these kids in 4th grade. So they bring the little bell kits in, they're like this. And so when you see them go off into drum corps, you know, it's kind of like it's the major leagues, right? It's like going off into the NFL. And there was one year, it was Alan's senior year, 2014. I think I had 4 kids in that drum line that went on and marched DCI that next year. My son, Aaron Sariva, Ian Mursky, Chloe played bass for Phantom. So here's you know, like I've had kids like this kid, Ian Mursky. He was my top marimba player. Comes to me, I think it was a junior, and he goes, "Mr. Unks, I want to try it for quads." I'm like, "What? You're like a great marimba player." He goes, "Yeah." I go, "Okay." So he comes in the spring and he plays. I'm like, he goes, "Yeah, I've been working a little bit." I'm like, "Working a little bit?" I go, "You're in." Yeah, let's go. So his senior year, he marched cadets. So he went and only learned how to play quads. And then when, you know, like graduated, marched cadets, and then he marched Blue Devils with my son for 2 years. Quad line. So anyway, I'm just, you know, I guess as a teacher, I'm proud of seeing the kids come up through the program and then they move into the major leagues like that. You know, it's really cool. My youngest son is getting ready. He would have marched Spartans this last year. He's moving out to California, wants to march, you know, RCC and do like what his older brother did. But I think he wants to come back to the cadets. You know, it's like, all right, that's cool. That's cool, Noah.
Now, you know, earlier you were talking about when your son Alan was younger and having the guard kids play with him. Now he's a good instructor. He's out there instructing in his own right. How does that make you feel? You know, the son following in the dad's footsteps, in the father's footsteps. I mean, it's cool. Like I saw him with Dark Sky out here last year, and I really liked what they had going on, and I thought, you know, he did a good job out there, or with them, I should say.
As a father, when you see whatever your child's going to do, and they enjoy doing it, that's important. That's the most important thing, right? Whatever that is, if it's, you know, in business. But then for me to have your kids, both my kids, doing what I love, and they're doing it, it's that extra thing. It's like the icing or whatever on the cake. And man, he's just so, I think he's way more mature than I am sometimes, you know, and he's so positive about everything. His outlook is always, you know, yep, we'll figure that out. Yep, okay, well, yep. He's always looking at like,
Yep.
Even though there's some things that are negative, he always finds the positive and he moves forward. He did that. I saw him do that when he was teaching the snare line at Cadets. He's like, all right, guys, we got that. No, take a break. All right, you're good. So I've learned a little bit from him. You know, I'm listening to him and I'm going,
Yeah.
that's kind of cool. Like, you know, sometimes for me, it's like, and I think this is a little old school. It's just like, just keep pounding, you know, and I've kind of learned a little bit watching him and some other guys too. It's like, just got to back away a little bit, take a break. So I think he's been awesome with that, you know. And again, my younger son's a section leader at Dartmouth, and just watching him, you know, he's very quiet, but man, he's a great player, and he just leads the correct way, which is through the example, you know. He's actually calling right now. Hey Noah, how's it going?
Good, how you here?
Yeah, well, I'm on a podcast with it's the Drum Corps Coffee Shop guys, and I think we're almost done, right, guys?
Yep.
Yeah. We'll let you out here pretty quick.
So they're asking me some cool questions, and they were asking about my kids and stuff. So I was just talking about you, and it's funny how you called me. So
Oh, happy birthday, Noah! By the way.
yeah,
happy
these
birthday.
guys say happy birthday. So just hang there. I'll be there in a few minutes.
Okay,
All right, bye.
bye.
That's funny. No,
Awesome.
Man, I hope he doesn't get mad.
no,
over that.
he's well. I told him I called him early, and I said, you know, let's meet for like a birthday. You know, we're gonna go to Five Guys or Tropical and sit in the car and eat it. Right? We don't go in. It's just grab it and go sit in the car. You know. Yeah. So.
Well, we don't want to keep you much longer. I know it's Noah's birthday and all, and we appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today. You know, and for our Christmas episode, I guess our holiday episode. Yep. So yeah, George, you have anything else?
I just want to thank you, Tom. You know, both for everything you've done in the activity, but also just sitting down and having this conversation with us. I say it over and over again. You know, we tend to interview people on here because of what they achieved and sort of, you know, being sort of icons. But what's great is getting to hear all those personal stories and see everything that's behind that. And we appreciate you being so open with us and entertaining all of our questions.
Yeah, and it's been kind of hard sitting here, not just being a fanboy and trying to have fanboy moments. Oh my God, because at heart, that's what I really am. You know, I've been a fan, like you said, since '89, since you took over writing, and you know, there was a point in my life when I'd want, as a bass drum, I wanted to be in the Cadets bassline. And in fact, when I marched at VK in '94, after that season, I talked to one of our quad drummers. I'm like, hey, dude, let's go to Cadets. Come on, let's go. He ended up going and marching.
Oh, yeah.
You know John Burbank? Yeah. I talked him into going
Oh,
out
you
there.
did?
He ended up going.
Oh,
and I
well,
ended up
thank you. He
staying.
was,
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
he was one of my favorite techs. He was awesome.
Yeah, I can't say I talked him into it, but we talked a lot about it. His dad used to own a Shakey's pizza place out here, so we'd sit there or Straw Hat, and I would be, come on, man, let's go, and he ended up going, and I ended up staying. But it is what it is, and I'm glad. Was happy to see him out there marching that year for you guys. But yeah, thanks for everything, Tom, and hopefully we can talk to you again soon, and maybe in a future episode we could break down some.
Yeah,
of
no,
your books with you.
I love talking about drum corps, and not just like what I do or what the cadets do, but I'm blessed and I feel very fortunate that I've been able to do it this long and just all about drum corps, not just the cadets, but like the Blue Devils and the Vanguard and the history and, 27th Lancers, watch what Charlie Poole did. And, some of the stuff that was in the early 70s that I don't know if you listened to some of the stuff I did with Joe Morella and Dennis DeLucia and, some of the older guys. And I was just like, that's so cool. Like where legato and staccato came from. So I love talking about just drum corps in general because it meant so much to me as a kid and it's been my life. And I see what it does for my kids. I see what it's done for, for kids that I taught and how great the activity is. So, hopefully I do, a few more years of cadets and keep things rocking. I do love what you guys are, on the Facebook page that you have, stuff that you put up there. I think that's awesome. I'm always checking stuff out there. I'm like, this is so cool. Unless someone picks on the kids, that's when you're in trouble.
Oh yeah. Oh, trust me, I don't like any of that either. I try to keep that place, like I said before, I started it to be a positive place and to support the activity, not to be not to degrade it or to bring it down at all. And thanks for being a part of the Facebook page, and I get a kick out of when you jump on there and chime in on stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So.
And I find it hard not to be a fanboy also on there. So, all right, Tom, and with that, we'll wrap this up. And thanks for everything. And we will hopefully see you on a future episode and break down some of your stuff or just
I love talking about it. So thank you guys. Appreciate it. Take care.